So, this is a Honda Africa Twin, the adventure sports model, and it's Honda's flagship adventure machine. More so, this is a 2023 model, which is a bit strange, but Honda has something special lined up with it, and you will see that later. But first, let's get into the nitty-gritty here. This bike has a few problems.
The first problem is that it's damn heavy.
Yeah, with its big 24-litre tank filled and the dual-clutch transmission, this bike weighs 248 kilograms. Now, sometimes manufacturers can get away with their models being a little weighty, and sometimes not.
Interestingly, last week we had the Indian Roadmaster, which weighed, I'm going to say, at least more than 100 kilograms more than this thing. It did. But the difference is that bike was very low to the ground, so the center of gravity is really low, plus your feet are your seating position is quite low, so you've got a lot of leg movement, so it kind of works, it's okay. Whereas this thing, it feels like despite their best efforts, all the weight is pretty much up here. It all feels like it's at the top. And you're a long way from the ground, so you don't have a lot of leg room. For example, I am on tippy toe with this thing, and it is a bit intimidating.
Apart from that, it has all the off-road credentials: a 21-inch spoked front wheel, 230mm of travel from the Showa suspension, 250mm of ground clearance, and a big bash plate, should that not be enough. However, sometimes it needs more than just credentials.
Like here, for example, we're going to go through some water here. This thing feels huge. It's got a 21-inch front wheel, it's got everything, but you don't feel like you're in control. It feels sort of clumsy. I mean, a few weeks ago I took one of these up Brett's Neck, which was just a whole lot of loose rock, and I didn't enjoy it that much, if I'm honest. It's clumsy. You're not sure what the bike's gonna do. It's like you're going along and next thing the front wheel goes that way. And then you got this huge heavy motorbike and you're trying to kind of control it, and just every time it hits some sort of loose rock or something, it's like the front wheel just shoots in a different direction. And as I say, it's sort of okay if the bike's a lighter maneuver, but this isn't, it's huge.
And then there's the electronics, of which it has pretty much everything, including the electronics to look after the DCT Auto Box. However, that doesn't always work either.
We're going through the water again. So the traction control set on its lowest level, but on its lowest level on an Africa Twin is pretty much like the highest level on a KTM. I mean, even its lowest level on slippery or rocky parts, a bunch of times you're going to just find that it'll just ground to a halt. The traction light comes on and then there's nothing. You open the throttle as much as you want and it just grounds to a complete halt. And then you got the DCT, which is great, but except, for example, when you kind of need to control speed. So again, you're going at slow pace, up a hill somewhere, soft sand, there again, see, not sure, where's that front wheel going, no idea. So yeah, you sort of want to control your own kind of pace, but there's kind of a bit of a delay between hitting the throttle and going, and how much power is going, and you don't quite have control. So that's a bit of a problem, yeah. And if you do fall over on one of these things, it's not terribly cheap. There's a lot of plasticky stuff that's going to break and exhaust and all sorts of things. So yeah, that's all fun. So far the Africa Twin's doing really well.
So, does this all mean that the Africa Twin is not worth our time?
Well, there's an easy solution. I mean, stay away from all that tight, horrible technical stuff. I mean, here we are, we're on farm tracks here. It's sort of as technical as I would want to go with this bike. And it's bloody amazing. Woohoo!
With that, let's re-look at everything. starting with the dual clutch transmission that requires no clutch lever, no gear lever, and a handbrake.
So regarding this DCT gearbox, if you've ever driven an automatic car, you'll know once you get into it, it's kind of very difficult to go back to what the Americans call a stick shift, full manual. Because it's just so much easier. You're going to work, you don't need to push the clutch in, you just sit back, you relax, and every now and again you just sort of hit the accelerator and the thing moves. Same with this thing. Your daily commute, there's nothing, in no way is a clutch motorcycle better. It just isn't. The DCT automatic version is just better in every single way. It does everything better. Yeah, you spend enough time, and I know this because I've got friends who have actually done this. Spend enough time with this bike, and you won't want to go back. You will not. You'll get back on a bike and you'll think, oh, look at that clutch. I've got to pull a clutch. Oh no, it's so laborious. This is way better. Lazy man adventuring.
The motor is a 1084cc parallel twin, pushing 100 horsepower and 105 Nm of torque. This isn't a lot of power, especially with a capacity close to 1100cc, but Honda doesn't really go all out for power.
Now this motor, it's not the strongest, but it's sort of gratifying. It's not trying to kill you. I mean, I like motors that try to kill you. They make you feel alive. You feel, it's like going on a roller coaster. But yeah, this isn't one of those motors. This motor's like, okay, buddy, we're in this together. Let's do this. And you sort of open the throttle. It's like, okay, man, let's go. Yeah, it has an American accent. I don't know why. It's watched too many American movies. But yeah, it's sort of a comfortable motor. It's got a deep sort of rumble. It's not loud, it's very quiet, but it's got this sort of deep rumbling sound to it. And it's got that intermittent firing order, so that even though it's a parallel twin, it doesn't have it has the compactness of a parallel twin, but the feel of a V-twin mostly. So yeah, and it works really well. It's really comfortable, really smooth, really sort of compliant. It's not going to just bite your head off. It doesn't wheel spin for no reason, especially with the traction control on. And everything is just brilliant.
As far as the electronics go, the Africa Twin has everything, including connection to things like Apple CarPlay, navigation, many different rider modes including gravel and off-road, with things like traction control, ABS, and everything else. Although it can be quite a lot.
Look at this handlebar. So I'm pretty sure that Honda has the most complicated electronic setup in the world. You just look at this handlebar. It's just covered in buttons absolutely everywhere. And there's just a million sort of complicated things on the dash. And if you want to know what you're looking for, you have to sort of search around for it. There, you heard me hit the Hoot a while ago. You have to search for that. You have to search for the indicator. Everything's just a giant search. But here's the thing, you spend enough time with it and you learn it. Say for example, I've only spent a day with it. Once you spend enough time with it, you do get used to all this and you do start learning what all this means, and then it all kind of comes together. Then it's not so bad.
Now that we've established that this bike is better on more open roads, we need to also consider how long it can stay on them. It turns out, quite a while.
It was Pieter Blanche, he's the famous, mostly famous for designing Ducatis. He said to me that Honda has the best ergonomics triangle, handlebar, foot peg, seat. And they do. I mean, just everything it's just sort of where you kind of want it to be, and you feel sort of natural sitting here. It sort of all naturally kind of comes together. And no more so on this. The bike is too tall, you tippy-toe everywhere. Yeah, Honda kind of need to start re-looking at that, because the other manufacturers are getting away with bikes that are smaller, that are lower, that are more easier to ride and good off-road. So yeah, Honda kind of maybe needs to look at that now.
Then, in conclusion, we need to look at the blatantly obvious.
One of the really great things about this bike is that it is a Honda. There's something about Honda. There's sort of you kind of feel there's sort of a surety to it. Like, this is a Honda. You just know it's gonna work. You know everything is done properly. You know there was a lot of thought put into everything. No half measures. Everything done kind of well. You know it's gonna have a good resale value. You know that the dealers are going to look at, you know there's going to be spares, you know everything's going to be honoured, you know it's all together because it's Honda. It is, quite frankly, the most trusted name in motorcycling is Honda. Yeah, this bike has its problems, but when you're out on the open, on the straighter roads, they sort of all disappear, and at the end of the day, you're on a Honda. That's saying something.